we really shouldn't have been creating free proposals and like putting in a lot of like looking at their Google Analytics and, going and auditing their site and then putting together a custom game plan all as a part of like the quoting process. So I think that's really what made me say like getting paid for that thinking time. Like that's the expertise and the knowledge of knowing where to look and then knowing what to do based on what you find.
What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here, if I remember my name, with the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast for the agency owner that wants to scale and grow their agency faster. And on today's episode, I have an amazing agency owner who's going to talk about monetizing their front-end offer and getting paid for strategy, which they used to give away. And I think a lot of you will actually relate, and this is going to be an amazing episode. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey, Spencer, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, my name is Spencer Powell. I run an agency called Builder Funnel, and we basically do digital marketing strategy and execution for design build, custom builders, and interior remodelers. So kitchen, bath, whole home guys.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing this?
We just hit 13 years. So it was 2010 when I got it going.
Awesome. That's great. It was a good time to start, right when the market was tanking.
Perfect. Yeah. In some ways, looking back on it, it was good and bad. I think the good is that I didn't know a lot. And so as you're figuring things out, like, you can make some mistakes and it's not like we weren't growing super fast. And so looking back on it, it all worked out for a good reason. So
what was the biggest mistake looking back that you've learned from that made a huge difference for your agency of where you're at now?
That's a good question. Honestly, probably a lot of what we're going to talk about today is getting paid to do the thinking work and not just the doing work.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what were you giving away, like in the thinking?
So I think early on, some of it was like we were just trying to get clients that believed in us and we were trying to figure some things out along the way. So I think we knew a little bit more than they did. And so it was probably fairly right-sized with the first few retainers we brought on. Like we're giving away a little bit of our strategy, but like, did we know if that was actually super sound at that point? Maybe not. But probably within a couple of years, because we were so focused on one industry, we did start to learn a lot. And so we really shouldn't have been creating free proposals and like putting in a lot of like looking at their Google Analytics and, going and auditing their site and then putting together a custom game plan all as a part of like the quoting process. So I think that's really what made me say like getting paid for that thinking time. Like that's the expertise and the knowledge of knowing where to look and then knowing what to do based on what you find.
What was the thinking around putting all that information in the proposal? Was that to separate you from all the other people that they were chatting about, or what was the rationale? Because I feel like there's a lot of people listening that still do that.
Yeah. For us, I felt like if I needed, so the way we started, we always did retainers. We didn't get into project work. So I feel like we made a couple of good moves early on, which was like, we signed 1-year contracts and it was on retainer and we had like a list of monthly deliverables. But my thinking was, if I'm going to create like a pretty good plan, then I kind of need to do this other work, right? Like I don't want to just throw together a boilerplate, like this is the same template proposal I give to everyone. Like there needs to be some customization to it. And a lot of times the customization was in the setup, like, oh, you're missing these pieces, so we need to do those, or, that looked a little different based on their website. And then the plan would have some modifications too. And so that was really my thinking, was to create a good plan, I need to do some of these other research steps. And that's why I did it initially.
What what was the turning point when you go, I'm going to stop giving this away for free and I'm going to monetize this? And probably what you probably see too is like you're going to systemize it as well. What was that turning point?
Yeah, it took way too long, but it was about, I think, about 18 months ago or so, and we um, we were really looking at it from a couple of different angles. One was we kind of had set this North Star of like, how do we become the best agency for design, build, remodelers, and custom builders? So we picked a very narrow niche so that we could kind of set that North Star as like, how do we strive to be the best? Knowing that that would take a lot of energy and effort in working towards that. Um, and so one of the first questions was, well, we need to have the best plans, and so we need to do a lot of work up front to make sure we create a sound strategy and then a great execution plan behind that. And we said, well, if we're really going to spend, like, if we're going to do that, then we really should do all of these things. And we listed out all the things we should do to create the best plan, or what we thought would be the best plan. And so that list of things grew from what we were doing just for free. Um, and then now we could justify, hey, if we charge for this, we can really spend the amount of time we should, versus before it was kind of a blend of, well, we've done this for 10, 20, 30 other clients. So I can kind of use that internal knowledge and shortcut it and say, well, we probably need to do these things, and this worked for these guys. It should probably work for you. But that really wasn't doing every company full justice. And so we felt like, okay, let's start from, if we had to do this the best, what would it look like? Okay, and then now let's charge for that and position it that way. And that really was the turning point. The other part that came along with that is I could see the runway where whatever I was selling as the owner, as we grew and we kept growing, whatever our churn rate was, I was eventually just going to be selling to replace our churn, and we'd flatline. And so I go, okay, I could see that on the roadmap 2 or 3 years ahead. I said, we're going to need salespeople. And then it was like, well, how can they sell custom marketing plans? They need to know the remodeling market, they need to know how to sell, and they need to know how to build custom marketing plans. Like, I'm not going to find that person. So that was the other piece we were trying to solve, is how do we productize strategy, or the sale, basically.
Yeah. What I see a lot of people struggle with that. They're on, and I went through this. It's a roller coaster line, right? It's like you focus on sales, and then you're like, I need to focus on delivery, but then I need to slow up on sales because I need to deliver what I promised because it's my word. And like,
Yeah.
I want, like, it's my reputation. And then you start going through self-sabotage as well. Did you go through self-sabotage going, man, we just can't keep up. I can't sell anymore. And then you're constantly at this glass ceiling that you just cannot break, above. And you're at this plateau and you see like nothing over it. And then I think too, I remember thinking, no one can sell as good as me. Or
Mm.
you even go down the rabbit hole of going, I need to bring on a salesperson from a really big agency that I want to be. And I even did that.
Mm.
I hired a couple people from this big agency, but what I found, we didn't have, like, they were totally different than us. Like, we were resourceful and scrappy, but they were like Office Space. And they were like,
Yeah.
where's my stapler? And like, I take this TPS report to this part and all of this. And they just didn't work out because they didn't have all the resources. Did you go through anything like that?
It's funny. I didn't hit that like self-sabotage moment. And I think I just was running numbers one day, and I could kind of see the writing on the wall that I was going to hit that point. And so I was fortunate enough. But I think the other part of it was I started removing myself from operations first, and I had done that a couple years prior. And so that I could spend more time marketing and selling. And so I did have somebody that was running all the team one on ones and the client experience and everything there. So, and that, just fortunately, that had been somebody that started entry level the company and accelerated. And so she knew all of the internal like processes and how we work. And so so I was able to navigate that, but almost by luck, probably. And then yeah, but and then really kind of to your next question, it was like, okay, but to find this right salesperson, I need to solve something else first. And so,
What
yeah, and it was huge. Yeah, for
what
sure.
what do you charge for your front end offer? What's the price
So we
point?
charge, yeah, we charge 20 grand for that. We call it our remodeler marketing blueprint.
Okay, cool. And what was the sales cycle? What was the length of the sales cycle before and after? And what was the close rate before and after?
Good question. The sales cycle before, I would say, um, was about 3 to 4 months. And the sales cycle now, I would say it's maybe a little bit shorter, but it's pretty similar, honestly. I don't think the sales cycle has changed a whole lot. Um, our um, closing ratio has definitely improved, and I think it's mostly because of the positioning of the blueprint. Um, like prior, it was, again, you're kind of stacking up against other agencies, and
Mhm.
we were positioned just from a brand perspective because we were very niche in who we targeted and everything. But it's still, at the end of the day, it was just like a list of bullet points and deliverables that look pretty similar to everything else. And so that, I think, has been the biggest game changer in terms of like people saying, yep, I want to move forward. Although I wouldn't say it's improved a ton, because we also, the price point is a lot different. So we get a lot of people that are like, whoa, like, I don't know, I'm not paying, like, that doesn't even include any marketing, and so that's been an interesting new hurdle that we kind of faced going. But we did it intentionally. We wanted it premium price because what we realized is that's where the value is. The
Mhm.
value is in the thinking and the out the right plan. Anyone can do the stuff, and I say anyone, like some people are going to be more efficient and better at those things,
Yep.
but yeah.
And the 20K offer, I presume this is a project that you don't do with the client. You kind of go away and then present it
Mhm.
back to the client.
Correct. Yeah. So we have a pretty extensive questionnaire, do a kickoff, and then we go away for 4 weeks, and then we bring them the plan. And it's pretty lengthy. Got For anybody that's watching on video, we turned into a nice booklet. It ends up being like
Wow.
130, 150 pages or something. They get a PDF doc, and then we also translate it into project management tool. It's basically 12 months worth of deliverables listed out.
And then that sells the retainer, I presume.
Yeah, so they can either. So the funny thing about this is, what I realized is we were just like our clients, where we were telling them like, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing free estimates," as like remodelers, and a lot of them moved to this design build model where they charge for design, and then if you move into construction, you pay for all the building. And in that industry, almost everyone moves forward with construction because, like, what are you going to do with design plans? Like, that nobody's going to remodel
Yeah.
themselves, and so, or typically not. But they charge for that, and then they move through. So for us, it's the same thing. They pay for the design, which is the strategy, so the remodeler marketing blueprint, and then they can pay for the execution of it. But what we realized is we actually unlocked the lower end and the higher end of the market, because we will do the blueprint and then we will turn it over to them if they want to self implement. And we built it so they could. So they get access to all of our training videos, all of our SOPs, the checklist of everything to do. And then if they're like sub 2 million, they've got an office manager with some time, they can work on doing the plan. Or they're like above 15 million, they've got one or two marketers. They want to make sure those marketers are effective. So they get the plan from us and then they can do that. But then it's that middle sector that we had always served. They're the ones that are having us do it, but now they just need to pay for the strategy first. And we give them a little knock off the price if they move forward with
I
implementation.
like that. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to know how to do it, but the chances that they're going to do it are very slim. One of the things I'm going to tell you, Spencer, that you're missing. There's one key thing that will take your timeline, shrink it way down, and your close rate way up. Is if you put a foot in the door offer before. And the foot in the door
Mm,
offer should be something you build with them within an hour to 2 hours, but you have to build it with them. That's the key. That's the thing
mhm.
you're missing, Because when you go off for 4 months, like, or 4 weeks, like you were saying, and the people are like, this doesn't count marketing, there's still a huge risk involved in that. And if you can build a plan with them, oh my gosh, like that's the perfect offer, honestly.
Mm,
You build a
gotcha.
plan with
Yeah.
them, then that positions you to do the project, and then the project positions the retainer. Like every time I see an agency owner do that, they just whoom, like sales, the only thing then you have to worry about is just getting more qualified leads. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. That'll be on my list for this month to kind of
There you
figure out
go.
what
Yes.
that
And then I'll have
initial
you come back
project.
on and
Yeah.
be like, holy cow, it worked. Yes, it worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Something for like 1,500, 2 grand or something like that.
Something very easy. And what I tell everybody to do is sell it this way. It's the easiest qualification process. Going, hey, we're going to do, and this is what we do. It would be like, and like we'll say, hey, if you're an agency owner and you want to transform your agency from an agency burden to an asset, we'd love to do an agency blueprint for you and with you. We do charge for this, and here's the 3 possible outcomes. And this is kind of like with your plan. Be like, hey, you'll love the plan, you'll go execute it yourself. And they'll always love the plan because you make it look like they built it, right? Number 2, what was the first one? You'll love the plan, you'll go do it yourself. If that's the case, I'll wish you luck. Number 2, which is the most common, you'll love the plan, you want our help, which we can talk about the next steps. Number 3, don't like the plan, I give you your money back, so there's nothing for you to lose. It's the easiest qualification process.
Yeah, I like it.
I've only had one person ask for, well, actually 2 people in 20 years asked for a refund. One was, I always joke, it was a Russian company, but they had a Russian translator on. So I don't know what they were translating. Right. And then another one was just trying to, I did a bad job at qualifying this person because they were just kind of like a scammer. So it's pretty good. 2 in 20 years. Like,
yeah, I think most people don't really want the money back. They want it to work. So yeah.
No, but I promise you your conversion rate skyrocket, lifetime or sales cycle will drop dramatically.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
It's easier for your salespeople to sell. But let's go on to, you brought in a sales team or a salesperson in order to sell this. Did you bring them on from that had experience selling to this industry? Did they know the agency space? What was that?
Yeah, so we're about 3 months into hiring one salesperson. So that's where we're at. They were in a sales role in a top 50 design build firm. And so they were from our target audience. And I felt like if they knew the industry, then they can relate, they can speak the language. That was going to be a huge leg up. If they had any sales experience, that was like bonus. Obviously, they need to fit the criteria for like a salesperson in the, and then, hey, we can teach them what the offering is, how to position it, that sort of thing. So at this point, they're doing all the qualification calls. They've closed a couple of deals with like light interaction from me, but I would say I'm mostly in on like second calls to answer some of the like nuanced questions and things like that. So making progress, but I can already see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, in terms of just having a productized offer that they can learn about and know, how to speak to the objections or where the value points are and that sort of thing.
Very cool. Yeah, I always look at one of the biggest mistakes I made when I used to hire salespeople at the agency is I would try to get them with agency experience and the industry experience.
Yeah.
And what I've realized as I've gotten more gray hair in my beard, I still don't have it on my hair. I don't understand why. It's just, it starts low and goes high.
Yeah.
That's weird, isn't it?
Mine's just going away. So at least you got it.
Yeah, I still got it for now.
Oh man. Yeah. That's nice.
Hopefully I hold on to it.
Yeah.
I think it's your mother's grandfather or your mother's father determines that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But what I found was I could take someone that understands sales. Like if they're a good salesperson, I can teach them the industry. I can teach them the services if you have the right systems in place. And I tried to figure out what made the owner, like for years and years, I tried to figure out what made the owner such a better salesperson. And it came down to one thing: stories. They
Yeah.
understand the
Makes sense.
stories of the results that they've delivered to people. So as soon as I realized that, I said, wow, if I create a model for a salesperson to look like, understand how they can jump into a business, like with ours, growing an agency really comes down to three things: attract, convert, and scale. That's it, right? And so our model is built around those three principles so you can get to an opportunity to sell one day. So what I would do is I would show them, here's one story a week for attract. Here's one story for convert. So if someone comes to me saying, hey, I'm converting at a low percentage, well, they have that one story that I would normally go to. And then the next week I come up with another story for them to remember. And then they can recite. And then eventually they'll have their own stories as they help their clients. Because I look at salespeople as specialists. They should not be selling. They
Yeah.
need to like diagnose or have like a triage. Like we always do like a triage call to figure out, can we help this person? What's the real problem? And then make the recommendation to like the agency blueprint, which is a paid engagement, like very, very minimal, but then they get amazing results from it. Right. So that's what I realized over the years. So you may want to look at going to your salesperson and just give them some of the stories, or write down some of the stories that you have that you always go to. That's
Yeah.
what makes it all work.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because they don't have the history of everything. They're just coming in a little bit blind, and yeah, they know what the offering is, but the context behind it is, yeah, the difference
Yeah.
maker. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
But I love what you're doing about making it so simplified, of like here productizing the offer that you normally would give away. And then, go into the retainer, because so many agencies go straight for the retainer.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been good. I feel like we've picked up more deals that would have just been lost because again, in those like I feel like we're closing the same percentage on the retainer deals. But then we're unlocking the people that want to self-implement because we didn't have an option for them. And so we are getting that like real-time feedback where people are like, I like that you have these options. Like we really want to learn how to do marketing. Like some people actually like that. They want to do that at their company. So it's interesting. And then we are, as an aside, we launched a website theme for this industry that's based on like conversion principles and like layouts for portfolio and about us and service area and like all of these things. And we're modeling it the same way where it's like a design build approach, mirroring their industry. And that's been something that I guess any other agencies out there listening that serve a specific industry, if you can kind of like mirror the language. I mean, I literally will have people say, wow, I like how you're like your design build, like that's how we sell too. And so they just like instantly just get it.
I love that you're building this community too. And what you'll start seeing as when we started building this community, what I've realized was it's always about a year and a half to 2 years later, they'll come back and they'll be like, hey, I learned how to do it, but I just want you to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they trust you because they've been following it and they start to see it working. The other opportunity that I bet you would have, and I tell a lot of agency owners, especially with your kind of offering, you should create a mastermind for these people that are doing it themselves. Could be a whole nother revenue model for you.
Yeah.
Just an idea, but I love the systematic approach that you have. I think if you just
Yeah.
add those, I mean, like, just send me a percentage
Yeah.
of the company, I guess.
That makes sense. Cause yeah, yeah, I will. Yeah. We'll just write you a check for whatever
There
we
you
start
go.
bringing
Oh, we got it on video too.
But yeah, I guess for the point, the self-implementers, like having that accountability piece, we do have a couple of things like throughout the year, but it would, to your point, be a little more enhanced if it included some sort of ongoing component. Yeah, we do have an online community that they like get access to, but it's it's not as formalized. So that would be the next step there, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, awesome, man. Well, this has been amazing, Spencer. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
I feel like we covered the high points. I would just plug, for anyone listening, like the niche and the productizing, like those two things have made some of the biggest differences in our whole journey. We started serving a few different industries, and everything got easier when we just committed to one audience, and then you learn so much more about how to solve their problems and provide real value. Retention rates went up, and then this was kind of that next like really big unlock for us, is just productizing, that first step, the first sale. Because at this point now the marketing team does the blueprint, and that's who you want building the plan. Is you want the marketers building the plan, not the sales guy. And so then when the marketers give them the plan, then they're like, great, this makes sense, like let's move forward. And so it almost just turns into like an assumptive next step. So yeah, I would just plug those because they were such big difference makers. As I look at like the 13 years, like those two would be in the top three for sure.
Awesome. What's agency website people can go and check out the agency?
Builderfunnel.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. And if you guys want to gain more clarity and confidence for scaling your agency and really have an agency blueprint that you can follow, I'd love to invite all of you to go check out agencymastery360.com. Click on the button on the very top right called Scale My Agency and look at that page. And we can get on a call with you and have our agency scale specialist really build a plan with you and really catapult your agency. So make sure you go to agencymastery360.com. And until next time, have a swank day.